All right, so I want to do a quick market update because today was a little bit unexpected in terms of price action. I think that it probably caught a lot of people off guard, myself included. Less so off guard and more so just like not what I was hoping to see. So we talked about this last night. We talked about this morning, how we basically swung these lows, had a great impulse candle on Bitcoin. What I wanted to see was the daily sort of close closer to the highs, and we sold off towards the end of the day yesterday. Today, so far, does not look great. You basically had everything dragged down by stocks, right? So stocks, we had this beautiful engulfing candle yesterday that's just been completely negated today. On S&P, we swung the yearly lows yesterday. We did it again today. Just came shy of swinging yesterday's lows. And yeah, no signs of strength whatsoever. The ironic thing is on NASDAQ, we swung the yearly lows on the CFD version of the contract. But if you look at the futures, we still have yet to do so, right? So that's something I'm paying attention to, basically in the Qs as well. Same thing happened. We swung everything, but we couldn't do it in the futures. So I'm waiting to see whether that's material or whether we actually end up swinging it on the futures as well instead of just the contract for difference ones. Bitcoin surprisingly held up well, which I don't have a ton of confidence in, to be honest. So if you look at Bitcoin on the right, the daily versus NASDAQ on the daily, clearly NASDAQ had this huge bearish engulfing candle. Bitcoin's sort of just like a, doji at this point. Historically, during this bear market, this doesn't actually bode well for Bitcoin. It hasn't really showed signs of relative strength. It's just a delayed reaction. So typically what happens is stocks will puke, Bitcoin looks like it's got relative strength, and then it goes ahead and pukes as well a couple days later. So I'm not getting my hopes up too much right now. It's just something I want to monitor. This is a logical area where you would look for some sort of turnaround. So we've talked about sort of like this monthly zone we're in. We've talked about weekly levels. I don't think this holds long term. I don't think this zone holds long term. I think the draw is definitely going to be the pre-COVID highs and possibly lower. The reason for that is if you watch the Dow Jones, we're already there. Dow's already testing those levels. It's already swept below those levels. I think this bear market goes on longer than people think. Everyone's still expecting V-shaped recovery types of things, and I just don't think we're in that environment anymore. So what am I looking for in the S&P right now? The best case scenario, if you're a bull, is to completely reverse this, do a bullish engulfing candle of both of these tomorrow, and carry on through quarter end. So October is generally bullish for stocks. You want to see that start turning around. We had talked this morning about looking at this 4-hour breaker level as a way to potentially get long and do a higher low. That didn't happen, right? It gave you no reason to get long in here. So it came straight through it, completely broke down. There wasn't really a good setup at all. So what you would be looking for now is maybe to flip some bullish market structure if you're wanting to get long in terms of closing through these highs and putting in a higher high on the hourly, and then longing pullbacks up towards these equal highs. I think that's a pretty obvious draw. So what does that look like? Basically, you come up, you close above these candles, pull back into the breaker zone, and then you're chasing these highs essentially before higher. Same thing with NASDAQ. I mean, we were looking at that 4-hour zone, and it's just like not at all something that you would have gotten involved in at all. So here's your breaker. I would probably put it here. Yeah, all of these. Nasdaq's kind of wild, so it's going to be wider, but yeah, no reason to get long there. So the only thing that looks decent here is you've swept these lows, you've swept the 2022 lows, and so now what you're looking at is some form of bullish market structure to maybe get long. But if we continue hanging around the 2022 lows, if we start closing underneath these, I think we're going much, much lower, so you need to be careful. Bitcoin, what's next? I mean, we had the exact same setup. Like, we talked about it last night and this morning. Bitcoin is following stocks. That's all they're doing. So we had this setup here that we were talking about as a potential area to get long. Well, when we started coming into it, what it actually looked like is I didn't expect it to break, like, given the strength of yesterday's close, which was this bullish, I didn't expect it to come all the way back down into the hourly order block. I expected us to put in a higher low here at the 4 hour before reversing. But what we actually did is we perfectly tagged into here before moving. So that would have gotten you a great setup to get long. I didn't take this. And the reason I didn't is if you look at stocks while this was happening, stocks absolutely looked like they were just going to completely nuke as Bitcoin was coming into that level. So, yeah, stocks on the daily, again, have been underperforming. So if you look at, we're looking at the same chart here. So yeah, stocks coming into that level were completely caving, right? There was no strength. We were at the lows. We weren't even close to putting in a higher low. We were putting in lower low formations, and it just looked horrible. So I didn't take this long. If you did, congrats. It looked pretty good, in hindsight, that is. But ways you could have gotten involved is essentially you're just waiting for it to tag this OB. You could have longed as it tagged it. Or you just wait on market structure to break, look for some sort of pullback, and then go. Where do we go from here? I think your best bet is to wait for clear signs of reversal. So we have broken market structure with this hourly close, but we're not pushing like I'd want to see. I want to see us put in a higher low here and then continue onwards. The reason I'm looking for longs and I'm not looking for shorts right now is we're at such an obvious level on stocks, on crypto, to turn around. Everyone is super duper bearish. We're coming into quarter end. I think a lot of people are positioned short. October is usually bullish for stocks, so it wouldn't surprise me if people have gotten overly bearish and then we start squeezing, especially with this sort of reversal that we've seen in the last 2 days in Bitcoin. So what you want to see is it continue. So basically what we had is your classic broadening descending wedge pattern, which if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially like a 3 dips kind of thing, and then it goes. And then all through this, you're putting in sort of like you would expect it to start putting in a higher low here and continuing. So kind of a gnarly setup, but these happen a lot in Bitcoin. There's 3 dips. The third one is like a capitulation event with high volume. And once it starts reclaiming these levels, what you look for is it to start sweeping these highs, which it did emphatically. So if you didn't get involved here at this order block, what I would be looking for right now is exactly what we're doing. We've broken market structure to the upside. We're testing this key order block. You want to see it put in a higher low and continue onward. Usually when I'm looking for market structure breaks, I want to see a close through the candle wick. So more so like here, that candle is the one that broke market structure, in my opinion. And then you go back up, you test these breakers, and that's where you start getting short. And then you basically have, I don't know, like target 1, maybe here, target 2, this zone, target 3 lower. something like that. But because this wick is so high, I'm willing to say that's a break in market structure. And if you're having trouble spotting that, the best thing you can do is just switch to the line chart, right? It makes it super clean, super easy. You've obviously got low, high, low, higher, high, lower, low, right? Like you can see exactly where market structure is broken, and you can tell we did it at 4 p.m. Eastern here today. We broke structure on the close. Now we're just seeing what we do. So futures are holding up okay for equities. You want to see that continue. You want to see these guys break market structure, test back down, launch. Monthly looks like horrible across the board. Really looks bad. There's no saving the monthly. There's going to be no saving of the quarterly. It all looks really, really terrible. The only saving grace is when you're looking at the quarterly, something like this looks like a reversal type setup. Like the bulls had some success and then the bears couldn't really get much lower than the prior quarter. So that is one thing to possibly be a glimmer of hope. I'm assuming we're also putting in some sort of divergence. We'll have to see how the month closes, but we could be putting in some monthly bullish divergence. We'll just have to see. Let's see, Bitcoin. What was I going to talk about? There's one other thing. If you invert this, it's actually kind of interesting, right? So let's go to maybe 4 hour, get some room here. So if you're looking at this inverted, this to me looks like distribution, right? Like you essentially swept this high. You swept all these highs, kept wicking through it, couldn't really get above, closed back under, retested it, SFP'd. You're now testing this like bearish breaker here, right? Which is, up candle before the down move, the broke market structure, swept these lows, you're testing into it, we're rejecting. At this point, like I would be expecting after we've come up, tested it, I would be expecting lower. But because this chart's inverted, like we're expecting higher. So I don't know. That's just something I'm thinking about, looking at. This is just a total chop range. Again, we talked about it. Like it's, if you don't have a clear edge, I wouldn't be screwing around with this because you're just going to get completely wrecked. There's a pretty good short setup late yesterday into this morning. There's technically a long setup right now, but your risk has got to go pretty far away, like here for sure, maybe back here. And then your target normally is going to be new highs or into here. So your R is not that great there. Your risk to reward, not 100% what I would normally take, but maybe you can drill down lower and get some setup. So going forward, what are we looking for? We want to see bullish market structure coming in. I don't like this 12-hour pen bar. To me, that normally means that you're going down more. I don't like how equities closed. You really just want to see equities completely push overnight. You want to see Bitcoin follow. There's no real point in covering Ethereum because they're all doing the same thing. I would say the best thing to do right now is to just wait until something becomes clear, wait until you have a very, very clear view on setup. I wouldn't force anything, tighten stops, reduce risk, go in with a lower position size, things like that, because all this is doing is intentionally trying to get people out. We are chopping and we're in a very, very tight range that once it breaks, I think it could be pretty violent. So we've just been sort of screwing around in this zone for a while now. So We'll see what happens, but we did the same thing back here. We did the same thing back here. Like, this whole thing is just chop. Like, we've been chopping for 112 days, right? A third of the year. We've just been chopping. So in a zone like this, like, you don't expect a huge breakout that's gonna like rip through all these highs and go to 34K. You don't expect a huge dump that's gonna go to 12K. You just expect more chop. So until things are clear and we see clear breakouts in either direction, expect the chop to continue, manage your risk, and take very, very clear, obvious trades, and you'll be good to go.